An overview. I want to take one point of acknowledging, he's not here right now, but former Counselor Maroon is responsible for this live streaming. He pushed it for years. It was supposed to come online at the end of the Minor administration. It didn't work. Walsh administration got it off the drawing board, but it was his project for years to try to get this. So I want to say this is a council initiative. Sometimes council doesn't get enough credit for what they do, and this was a common council request that was pushed through by the whole council, but Councilor Maroon was the initial person who was pushing it.
All righty. So we will.
Your budget is pretty much a status quo budget. Like most staff departments, it's driven by salaries. I think it should be higher for the counselors. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but I think if you look at other major city councils, we are the lowest paid city council in the state, and we have the smallest staff of any major city council in the state. So I know it's not popular, but I would say if any area of the budget needs to be beefed up, this is one of them.
We should have to go on referendum. I agree.
We all agree.
That would be on our docket, correct, John?
Yes, the last time the council received an increase, they voted it for themselves, but what they did is, my office, at that time, Jim wasn't here, I don't believe, did the research. We looked at all the other city councils, we looked at what they were paying their counselors, staff and things, and we made a case for it. And then the Common Council went to the editorial board of the newspaper, which is always wise to do, and laid out their case for why their raise was warranted. And they then went forward and proposed a raise, which was well received because the factual information was there to justify it.
So we would follow a similar process if we were to consider it.
Since that worked well, I would suggest that that's what you consider going forward.
Thank you.
Councilor Green. Councilor Khalid Bay, you're done? Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I might. 1 second.
Well, I want to just ask
On this,
one quick question. I'm looking at the 300 line, office supplies, and the actual is almost $20,000, and it's reduced now to 4,800.
I'm sorry, are you looking at 415 line or?
No, the 300 on office supplies. 19,743,
Okay.
and now it's 4,800, 44,000.
Page 61 in the book.
Oh, right. What happened was we transferred money because last year we had bought all the chairs that we have up there now. You see, remember the council chairs were replaced, and we put in, these chairs were recovered. All the things were done, so that was a one-time capital expense that we wanted to do some improvements to the chambers.
Okay, and then on the 415 line, professional services, it was 3,000, and it was adopted at 30,000, and proposed final at 40.
That's because that's where the money is if you have to hire an outside attorney. We don't always need to hire an outside attorney, but if we do, that's where you have the money in your budget to do so. Let's say there's a position where the corporation counsel feels she's at conflict has to defend the administration, and you have a different position, you would hire an outside attorney to represent your interests.
All righty. Okay, Councilor Bay.
all right, so I'm gonna take a shot at this. I've taken a shot at it every year since I've been here. So I'm gonna try it again. All right, this is not relative to the existing budget because that's pretty standard. But I'm still gonna make the case that we need 4 office aides, probably at 20 hours a week in the council chamber, because, I'm sure plenty of you get called to 4 meetings that all start at 7 p.m. sometimes, or, at 12 p.m. And we often can't and take abuse for showing up to a place for 10 minutes because the constituent doesn't understand that we have 4 other or 3 other or 2 other things we got to respond to. And other legislatures, to the clerk's point, tend to have more staff to help the council spread itself out a little bit and be more effective. I've made that case probably for the last few years at least, and no luck. Also, a not so sexy one, I guess, on the part of some people, but I believe it is. We need a charter change, in my opinion, so that we could hire a permanent lawyer who could use the title corp counsel as well, or at least amend the charter in some way, because obviously corp counsel is who could put items on the agenda. An outside lawyer cannot do that. But for those very reasons, the conflict of interest, which often comes into play, not at anybody's fault, but it is what it is. And I too have made that case, I believe, John, since I've been here. That
Yes, you have.
We need to have our own attorney. There's no way you can qualify a balance or of power when you're using attorneys, with all due respect, who can be hired and or terminated by the administration. And that would imply that all of the,
The only
and
thing
this is
that I
not calling into question anybody's integrity, but let's be clear, at the end of the day, their boss is on the second floor, not the third.
We do have a very unusual circumstance that occurs in the charter. The charter says the common council can go out and hire its own attorney when needed under conflict. But the way the charter is also written is only the corporation council can secure outside attorney. So what happens is, we have recommended to the corporation council who we want hired when we've done this in the past. That's probably a very awkward system, because she is either approving or disapproving, he or she, the counsel for the common council. So I do think a charter change for sure is needed there, that if you have the authority to hire somebody, you shouldn't have to be dependent on the corporation council to hire that person.
It's a very, very intelligently engineered process, engineered by some administrators sometime in the past. You know, but we need to fix it, because the council often, and I've made this complaint, is often waiting for legislation for months. In my case, almost 2 years for one piece of legislation, because there's always the argument, well, you know, the mayor has us doing X, Y, Z. Okay, I understand that. Then we need our own attorney inside the council office. I don't care if we have to clear out a closet, you know, but we need one. It makes sense to have one, and we're ineffective, as far as I'm concerned, without one. That's all I got.
Anything else?
Thank you,
The-
Madam
Hold on
President.
one second.
Thanks a lot.
The last, I'm speaking up right now, the travel, training, and development, who is that used for, the $2,500? 'Cause-
For your council office, it's for
Yeah,
counselors.
but where or when is
Well,
what I'm
if you, for example, if you go on a government-sanctioned trip, it has to be like, let's say they're having a conference in Albany on housing authority, and you're chair of that committee, you want to attend, you would put a travel voucher through, and I then process it with the budget department, and that would be the line that would pay for your, you know, tolls if you drove your car, your gasoline, your meals, you know, there's
Okay.
set amounts for that. But there is, that's what, that money is for any council travel, you know, that is relative to the job, you know, right, related to your position.
Mr. Allen, that's an awfully small amount.
Once again, Counselor, let's say you decided to spend more than that, we would take the money out of the 415 line and add it to that line. We could move money around if we had to, but historically, the council hasn't traveled much, so that's why that line has been where it is. I mean, it just hasn't happened. There's been some travel,
Yeah,
but
there's been some, and historically, the council is changing, and they might see where they might wanna do some trainings or go to different parts of the country, or of the state, to see how things are being done.
absolutely, Counselor.
$500 for 10 people, that's a little low, so.
That's another argument we've made over the years.
Well,
But it
if
can
you
be
want,
moved from the other line, from the four, okay.
or you could put an amendment to increase it at budget time if you want to.
Because that's a little bit below the 10.
And we need a food budget for budget hearings. We need, we're here. We need some breakfast and lunch.
Actually, we did recently get a credit card for the student youth program, so I suppose we could use that for this.
Okay. We're gonna be here for a couple hours. Stomach growling.
I know. Oh, I am so hungry right now, and I'm trying to keep it together.
I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't have anything.
We got 10, 11?